Texas Tomo. I've been a spin and go coach for 6.5 years. Played spin and goes full time for 9.5 years, 9 years, I think. And here are my top 5 tips. If you're new, if you're experienced, maybe, or if you're any level, maybe these will help. Here we go. All right. First tip, number 1, pre-flop. Some of you may guess that, but of course, without the right sort of pre-flop strategy, you're going to really struggle to make any money in spins, let alone make more money. So important, lots of resources available out there for you. You can go to various solver sites, such as GTO Wizard, GTO Base, Insta GTO, Lucid GTO. All of these will give you, and for any of the beginners amongst you, will give you not only a good guide in terms of how the equilibrium would play various preflop situations, but they're also free in terms of browsing the preflop solutions. And so it's a good idea. To give a little anecdote, when I was a young, optimistic, somewhat naive spin and go professional, I used to try and set my pairs out of the small blind against the button open. For those of you who are perhaps experienced spin and go players would know, not the best idea trying to just flat fours and see if I hit a set. And if I don't, I fold. And if I do, okay, try and stack someone. Didn't really work. So it's a really good idea. Lots of you out there will probably right now have some significant pre-flop issues that maybe you're unaware of or maybe you're aware of. But focusing on that as the starting point will be really, really good, because it will be more... it'll be, let's say, the biggest return in terms of the technical work you can do at your game in terms of getting that pre-flop correct. Tip number 2. Play the right stakes. To give another little story, let's say you're one of the top 1% players in spins in the world. Well done, very well done. You spent many, many years honing your craft. But you play games where you're only playing people who are in the top 1% too. You're not actually achieving much of an ROI, if any. And if you are in the bottom 10%, for those of you who are watching this video, obviously that won't include you, but you play games exclusively with other guys who may be in the bottom 10% too, you may actually make some money there. And so it's about relative skill is so important in terms of the profit you're going to make in the game. And for many people, they are playing in too high games, and I think actually the majority of full-time players as well as recreational or part-time players would perhaps make more money. Not for everybody. Some people may actually be playing too low stakes and actually could make more money by playing higher stakes. But very, very important that you're aware of what your expected chippy V is at various stakes, and then play the right stakes accordingly to increase the return on investment, increase your hourly, and make more money at spins, hence the title. Tip number 3, we're going to talk about mental game and enjoyment. Mental game is as important as technical work. For most full-time players, they, I would argue, are better served in terms of the return on investment in terms of coaching. The majority of players, on the whole, make more money by an hour's work on their mental game rather than an hour's work on the technical game. It's the key to be able to unlock all of the technical skills you learn over the years. And if you are someone who's put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of GTO study, but the second that let's say you get sucked out on and lose full chippy V on the river, your brain just disappears into revenge-seeking tilt or something, then of course all of those hours are essentially meaningless or somewhat meaningless. So mental game is really important. Related to that is enjoyment. I think a lot of people, when we start playing poker, it's a fun pursuit and really exciting game to play. And what can often happen is, as you play more and more poker, it moves into a career, moves into a job, and then actually can become a bit of a grind. And I think there's a lot of people who play an awful lot of volume and actually just lose the enjoyment of the game, lose that excitement, lose that enthusiasm. And I can say with a great deal of confidence that people who make the most amount of money are able to play with enthusiasm and excitement and enjoyment. And if you currently are finding poker a real grind, it's very likely, I would imagine, that you also will not be making the most amount of chippy V in your games at the same time. So obviously it's different for everybody, but find out whatever motivated you originally to get into poker. Try and see if those motivations are still accurate, and then try and set up your game in a way, or set up your grind in a way where you still retain a joy, whatever it is. For some people, studying can help. They look at a new part of the game tree, and then suddenly you find joy and excitement to implement this. For other people, it's about making sure they're not playing too many hours, making sure they have not too many. Poker's not being too detrimental to other aspects of their life as well. Something to think about. Tip number 4. Coaching and studying. So study is obviously very, very important. You're not going to achieve anything just trying to wing it. And all of the great poker players throughout the years have put in immense hours. And I think the idea of sort of a natural, innate talent for poker, there obviously are people who are perhaps more predisposed to getting to the top of the game, but even then it requires hours and hours and hours of study. However, also we'll talk about the efficiency of study. And so if you're spending, let's say, hundreds of hours studying the wrong sort of things, it may be that that time could be better served with 10 hours of studying the right thing. And so this is where a coach can really, really help. It's someone who's perhaps had the experience or can help direct you in terms of what areas to study to have a greater impact on your results. And I think for guys, I was always quite resistant at first. When I say at first, like the first couple of years of playing spins, and actually I should have taken more sessions earlier, and it would have really, really shortcut the process of getting to the top of spins, because there was just a couple of very easy fixes in my game that I was just unaware of, that I was just blind to, and I think that can be really, really helpful. And for, I would say, 99% of guys, even if the amount of study just is exposing your hands and just let's have a look with some guys that maybe are your peer group or something, still going to be really, really helpful. Tip number 5, bankroll management. So all of the above tips are irrelevant if you're not bankroll managing correctly. There are so many incredibly talented poker players who were not able to get to the top or even just stay in the poker game because they had poor bankroll management. Obviously, there is a little bit related over here to mental game as well. So for some people who suffer from mental game, they may chase losses or something, and then you move out of it. But without bankroll management, again, it's impossible to utilize any of the skill sets that you develop over the years. If you're playing spin and goes with a 20 buy-in or a 10 buy-in bankroll with no ability to move down the stakes, or if you're someone that, for example, loses $100 at spins playing the 10s and then think, why don't I just play 100 and maybe I'll win it kind of back. And I think, again, these are just recipes for failure, unfortunately. And so it's so important to make sure that you have the correct bankroll management. Staking can obviously help. There are various staking groups available. Team 601, cheers. But yeah, super important. One extra bonus tip I'm going to talk about, tip number 6. I can't even do fingers with my numbers with my fingers. Bonus tip number 6, little bonus, free. I'm going to say take responsibility. This is more of a sort of, let's say, not specific advice, but I think it's something that, again, I see a lot of the top players have in common, where there's all kinds of different spectrum of education levels and backgrounds and ways of approaching the game have led to success for many, many people. But I would say an overriding theme that ties a lot of those guys together is taking responsibility. And what I mean by that is not blaming external factors, but trying to say, when things go wrong and when you face the challenges in your spin and go career, which we all will face challenges, and we all have faced challenges and will face challenges in the future, taking responsibility and trying to figure out what can I do to make the situation better. There's sort of like overlap to sort of Stoic philosophy, let's say, which is understanding the parts that are within your control and understanding the parts that are outside of your control, and focusing as much attention as you possibly can on the areas that are within your control. But what I mean by that is, let's say you have challenges with tilt in a certain area. Take responsibility for that tilt and try and take some steps to address it. And let's say you have problems in your game, take some responsibility and try and almost like over assume responsibility for so many different parts of your game is a much better way of under assuming responsibility and just sort of going, I'm just a tilter, not really going to be very successful, or I just play the button poorly. Work on it, and I think the more things you can find yourself accountable and responsible for, the more success and the more chance you'll have of improving those areas. Anyway, did I miss any? 5.5, 5, 6 top tips. Let me know. Any of those resonate with you? Let me know. Any of them didn't resonate with you? Also let me know. If you want to add any of your own tips, that's also very, very welcome to. Thanks very much. Good luck. Spin a million. Next spin, yeah? Hope it all goes well. Cheers. Bye-bye.